Hello, and welcome to another episode of English Podcast Zone USA. Today, I'm going to be talking about Adrian's dream. Adrian always wrote best in the morning. If he timed things right and woke up in that half-dreamlike state, and then went straight to his desk and wrote, he always produced something highly original. Okay, this is quite a long sentence. So if he timed things right, if he timed it so that he woke up at the right time in that half-dreamlike state. You know, sometimes you wake up and you're still kind of in a dream, and your mind works very freely. That's the state that a lot of writers use. Personally, I also do this. I get up first thing and write. And then later I look at it and I think, wow, I wrote that? I don't remember writing that. That's crazy. Because the critical parts of your mind haven't woken up yet. So when he does this, he goes to his desk, he writes, and he produces something highly original. Very original. Very good. However, there were a few problems with this. Problem number 1. Adrian could not perfectly time his alarm to match his circadian rhythm. So your circadian rhythm, this is a concept in biology. So a rhythm is like a beat in music. Yeah, and your circadian rhythm is the rhythm of your body according to the daylight. So our bodies have this natural rhythm that matches the daylight so that we are awake and have energy when it's daytime, and we're tired and we want to go to sleep when it's nighttime. However, it's a bit complicated because, we have to wake up to go to work, and sometimes it's not the right time with our circadian rhythm.so, because we go through these sleep cycles, right? There's like several stages of sleep. So the entire sleep cycle ranges from 70 to 100 minutes, and it's made of 4 stages. So the first 2 stages are not very special. Sorry to those sleep stages, you're just not that interesting. And then stage 3 is your slow wave sleep, or your deep sleep. That's the sleep that's very important for feeling refreshed and restored in the morning. And then stage 4 is REM sleep, or rapid eye movement sleep, and REM sleep is when we dream. So writers, I guess, ideally want to wake up during the REM stage, maybe? I don't know exactly, but anyway, there are these different stages of sleep, and Adrian struggled with matching his alarm to the right stage of sleep. Sometimes he woke up too early and felt nothing but a sore tummy and utter exhaustion. And sometimes he woke up too late and felt deeply refreshed but creatively void, like ice cream scooped out at the perfect temperature that leaves no residue. Okay, another long and complicated sentence. So, sometimes he woke up too early and felt nothing but a sore tummy, a tummy ache, a belly pain, a pain in his stomach, and utter exhaustion, extreme exhaustion. Sometimes he woke up too late and felt deeply refreshed, very refreshed, but creatively void. So when you're void of something, you are empty. You don't have that thing. So when you're creatively void, you have no creativity. Like ice cream scooped out at the perfect temperature that leaves no residue. So, when you have a box or a tub of ice cream, and at first it's quite hard to scoop, but if you get it at the perfect temperature where it's just melted around the edges, you can scoop it out all in one go, and it won't leave any ice cream in the tub. That's residue. Yeah, residue is something left behind. So, it's like you completely scooped it out. It's completely empty. So, it's a metaphor for how creatively empty he feels. So when he sleeps really well, he wakes up feeling not tired, but he has no creativity, which obviously is not good if you're a writer. Problem number 2. Since this dreamlike state did not coincide with full restfulness, Adrian's weaker self would often take over in the morning, and instead of going to the desk and writing, after switching off his alarm, would immediately crawl back into bed to return to sleep. So, problem number 2. Since this dreamlike state did not coincide with full restfulness, it didn't go along with full restfulness, Adrian's weaker self. So when we talk about your weaker self, it means the weak parts of you, the parts of you that aren't so good. So often when we wake up and we're very tired, our weaker self takes over and says, I'm not going to work out. I'm going to go back to bed, for example. So his weaker self would take over, and instead of going to write, after switching off the alarm, would crawl back into bed, crawling like an animal on the ground. Yeah, because you're tired, to return to sleep. Adrian tried all sorts of tricks, leaving a trail of alarms which led to an old-fashioned wind-up clock on his writing desk, throwing a heavy rock onto his bed as soon as he got out of it, and getting a friend to phone him 5 minutes after waking up to check he hadn't gone back to bed. The kind of alarm that Adrian smashed, so he tried all sorts of tricks. He tried lots of different strategies. He tried leaving a trail of alarms, a row of alarms, leading to an old-fashioned wind-up clock on his writing desk. You know those old alarms you see in films where you wind up a key, and then when it's time for the alarm shakes and bells ring? I love the idea of having one of these alarms, but it seems to be very difficult to purchase them these days. So that was his first trick. The second trick he tried was throwing a heavy rock onto his bed as soon as he got out of it. So if you throw a rock onto your bed as soon as you get up, you won't be able to go back to bed because there'll be a rock on it. And finally, the third trick is getting a friend to phone him after he wakes up to check he hadn't gone back to bed. The results of these were, however, a trail of broken clocks, a dent in his mattress, and a ruined friendship. A dented car. So these strategies didn't work. The first one meant he broke all the clocks because he was tired and angry. He broke the clocks. The second one just left a dent in his mattress. A dent is like a bump. Yeah, when you hit something and it presses inwards, it leaves a dent. If you hit your car into someone else, your car will have a dent. And finally, clearly he got angry at his friend on the phone because it also left him with a ruined friendship. Problem number 3. Adrian had a job and his job didn't leave him much time to write. He already had to wake up at 6 to show up to work on time. And if he got up any earlier, he'd have to go to bed at 8 or 9 p.m. to get enough sleep. I'm sure many of you know that problem where you want to get up early to get to work on time, so you're not rushing. But if you get up too early, then you have to go to bed really early. And Mrs. Barnsley downstairs still had the TV blaring at that time before she inevitably fell asleep to Corey and her grandson turned it off. So, in London, it's very common for houses that have 2 floors to be converted into 2 flats. So I imagine that's the situation here. Adrian lives on the top floor, and then Mrs. Barnsley is an old woman who lives downstairs. And she has the TV blaring, the TV playing really loudly, late at night, before she inevitably falls asleep to Corey. Corey is short for Coronation Street. Coronation Street is a very popular soap opera, like a drama series. And it's not particularly good quality, but it's one of those shows that's on every day. And then finally, after she falls asleep, her grandson turns off the television. So I guess he lives with her. Eventually, Adrian settled on the solution of naps. So he chose to take naps as his solution to have a little sleep. He'd come home from work and head straight to bed. Of course, problem number 1 still remained. But because he'd only be going through 1 sleep cycle, he could use a diagnostic framework to determine exactly how long it would take him to get to sleep. Houses. So when you are looking for agents, you query agents. A query is like a question. So you send them your work and you say, "Are you interested in me?" That's querying. So he was querying agents on his lunch break. Hook. line, sinker. Okay, so this is like a metaphor with fishing. You have a fishing rod that has a hook at the end, and then you have the line that you throw out to the water. And if a fish bites the end of the hook, and then you can reel the fish in, then you can catch the fish. Then obviously the end of the fishing rod, the hook will sink under the water. So when we say hook, line, sinker, it's like you've completed a series of actions and it's all gone really well and it's leading to success. You're catching the fish. So hook, line, sinker. Somehow it was all coming together. Agent, contract, book tour. Okay, so he's found an agent. He has signed a publishing contract. So he signed a contract for his books, and he's going on a book tour. So he's going to promote his book, to talk about his book, to answer questions, and probably to do signings. So book signings is where people buy your book and you sign it. As the author, you give your signature. Agent, contract, book tour, with a nap and a writing session between signings, of course. Yes, Adrian had made it. So when we say someone has made it, it means they have succeeded in their career. Picture it now, imagine it now, a room bathed in camera flashes. Yeah, so many camera flashes, it's like a bath of camera flashes. Crowded with bespectacled book bloggers. Crowded means filled with people. Spectacles is an old-fashioned word for glasses, so when someone is bespectacled, they are wearing glasses. So, bespectacled book bloggers are people who blog about books, and people who read a lot of books tend to have glasses. They tend to be bespectacled. One asks, Mr. Carole, most debut authors. So debut authors are authors who are publishing their first book. Most debut authors toil for years on a single manuscript. They work hard for years on a single manuscript, and then act surprised when their publisher asks for the sequel. So many writers work on their first book for ages, and then they don't think about what happens next, and they don't prepare any other work. And often, publishers want the sequel, because if the first book sells well, they want to put the second book out as soon as possible that you've come out of the gate. So when you come out of the gate, you, start doing something really successfully, immediately. You've come out of the gate with a trilogy and a collection of short stories. A trilogy is a series of 3 books. Just how do you do it? Adrian smirks. So a smirk is a smile where you're like, yeah, I'm great. Look at me. I'm smirking. Adrian smirks and composes himself for the photograph that will accompany this interview. So he kind of poses because he knows someone is going to take a picture. I sleep on it, he says wisely. So normally when we say to sleep on something, it means you have a big decision to make and it's good to sleep and then see how you feel in the morning. So that's sleeping on something. Like, oh, I don't know whether to go to Spain or Turkey on holiday. I'll sleep on it. But in this case, he's making a pun. He's doing some wordplay because he's talking about sleeping on his writing. Tens of thousands of pounds and months of travel later, Adrian returns home. He's kept his day job because he doesn't want to jinx things. So your day job when you're an artist? Often you don't make money from your art. So you have your day job, the job you do during the day to make money. So he's kept his day job because he doesn't want to jinx things. So jinx is kind of like a curse. Often it's when, 2 children say the same exact words. They go, oh, jinx. Because it's like, oh, it's like a magic spell or something. So if you jinx something, you say, oh, I'm such a successful writer. I'm going to quit my job. And then as a result, you stop being successful as a writer. That's an example of jinxing it. It's like a superstition. Okay, so you shouldn't say the thing you want to openly, for example. Miraculously, his boss was okay with him taking months off to launch his books. Maybe because she's a failed artist herself. He's seen her doodling on notepads when nobody's looking.